Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Silver Screen Dudes YouTube channel. My name is Nico Luro, host right here on the channel, and I am joined once again by one of the cast and crew members of one of my movies of the year. You can see the title above. We're talking about Protein again today. The review is out on the channel now. It's available to stream right now on Amazon and Apple, and you should do it because it's one of my movies of the year. And I am humbled and blessed to be joined today by the star of said film. Craig, how are we doing?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Really, really good. Thank you. And thank you for providing me with such an entertaining time watching your movie.
Oh, well, no, look, thank you for your kind words. I'm so pleased you enjoyed it. When you make a film like that, you understand as soon as you read the script, you understand and accept that this isn't this isn't a film for everyone. So
You.
it's always nice to meet. And luckily, the response has been excellent. But obviously, you've seen it, so you understand that it doesn't matter how good it is. It's still not for everyone.
It's definitely not for everyone. It's certainly not for the people who are of the more squeamish disposition. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about this. So let's get into it. When I said this to Tony when I interviewed him the other day, I kind of sat back once the credits rolled in this movie, and there was all these various other British independent films that were coming to mind that always left an impact on me. And I thought, yeah, Protein fits right in there. Honestly, it's been a moment. Last time I saw a movie like this, it was Dead Man's Shoes that really just made me go, whoa, holy shit, that's a hell of a film. So
Yes, yeah.
how how much of other British cinema do you think influenced this movie and to a degree influenced how you portrayed yourself in this movie?
That's a good question. So, firstly, I have to say that my favorite movie of all time is Jaws,
Yes.
but a very close second is Dead Man's Shoes.
Oh,
And
wow.
the it's just a wonderful film. And I remember since from the age of about 17, 18, I suddenly became aware of British cinema.
Yeah.
I suddenly tuned in to filmmakers like Ken Loach. He was my god. I thought the guy was just. I still do. I think he's wonderful. And I remember, but before she was my wife, she was then my girlfriend. She bought me the Ken Loach box set, and as soon as I had enough time to watch a movie in a day, I'd put one on, and then it became Shane Meadows, became Andrea Arnold, became and I any British film, and then I would go right back all the old Michael Caine stuff, Get Carter, Scum, Nil by Mouth. Once you open the door to the British film industry, especially, and a lot of those I've just mentioned weren't independent British films, but many of them are. Once you realise the wealth of quality this country has produced, for me then, and for the longest time, and still, I stopped looking abroad at movies. I stopped looking at Hollywood stuff. Something would launch in a cinema with a superhero in it, and was I adored those movies before, and I do now. For the longest time, I
Mhm.
would always bypass anything big budget and find the most independent, interestingly looking British thing I could get my hands on. And so I've always responded to that. And I and to go back to the link between Dead Man's Shoes and Protein, I don't think Tony thought of it at the time, but the comparison has certainly been made a lot since, by critics, reviewers, and people who've seen now both films, which to us is I mean, what an honor! What
Yeah.
an honor! Such an incredible film. Paddy Considine is one of my favorite actors. Meadows, one of my favorite directors. So it really is. It really is a fantastic thing to hear. So thank you for that. Um, and I think I've always I love I love Only Fools and Horses. I love The Office. I love Alan Partridge, and I love Dead Man's Shoes. For example, amongst many other movies, and what they've all got in common is that central character, that underdog who just wants to get through the day, wakes up in the morning, wants to get through the day without making a fool of themselves, get back into bed at night. That's the most basic way of saying it, isn't it? Certainly in the
Yeah.
case of Brent and Partridge, open that up, and it's you look at the stuff that goes on in Dead Man's Shoes. He's just a guy. Yes, he's there for revenge, but he just wants to get through the day. because if he can't get through the day, he will not be able to exact his revenge. And yeah, so sort of it was that sort of approach really that got me into protein and how I was going to tackle it moving forward.
And yeah, you must have, like, I've done a tiny bit of acting on the side, like I've done 2 movies now, and there are
Oh,
certain
great.
times when you obviously get given a role and you think, "Oh, I can have some fun with that. I can grind my teeth on that." I was
Mm,
looking at you, obviously, while I was in the movie, you know, completely immersed in it. I was like,
yeah.
"This is disgusting," but kind of breaking the fourth wall. I was like, "He's having the time of his life, Major. You must have had such a
Mm,
blast playing this character,
yeah.
despite how violent and bloodthirsty he is." What was it, aside from obviously what we've just discussed, which is, you know, the very British aspect of it? Playing a character like that, what was it that drew you to this role?
Yeah, you don't often get the chance to do things like this, you know. And we'd made, I don't know if Tony mentioned this, we'd made this short film um, that inspired the movie back in
He did, yeah.
2014,
Yeah.
and that was just wonderful, just getting to do that. But it without no pun intended, it gave me the taste for it and more of it. So yeah, I really did. I said to him, "Look, I think we should make this into a movie. There's a bigger story to tell here." And Tony, being the genius he is, and the talented and committed professional that he is, he just went and wrote this script and he sent me it, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, and it's everything you want, everything I want really as an actor. Loads of interesting stuff to do, not many lines to learn. So it was great. I could just commit myself completely to the role,
Mm,
and that was interesting because I spoke to I spoke to two um, to a guy who's still in the military and one who used to be in the military about PTSD. One of whom suffers with it still dreadfully. The
mm,
other one who thankfully never has, but he's seen it in those around him. I got to interview those guys and talk with them at length about the things they'd seen, the things they'd experienced, and how that's impacted on them in their lives now. Um, I watched loads of documentaries about life in the army, about PTSD, about serial killers, about cannibalism,
yeah,
and I completely immersed myself in that world as well. That was a bit harder to do because obviously that's real. You know, the stuff that Sean does in this film, people do.
yeah,
And yeah, so that wasn't as much fun watching one of those before going to bed. But then, and at the same time, I dropped nearly 3 stone in weight, and everything I was left with, thanks to the help of Tristan Bevan, a performance coach, I turned everything I'd left into muscle, and I just worked out the dietary regime, sorry, of someone who doesn't eat all the time, but when he does, it's just protein. So I just went for that look.
yeah.
And
We'll come on to your diet in a bit, but yeah, keep going.
yeah, and so I just learned a lot about this person because you couldn't with a character like this, and because as you know, you've seen the film, I don't have a lot to say. With words, I had to say it all with my physique and my mannerisms. And at the same time, I knew because we shot it during lockdown, we needed a trusted and respected and safe, talented team around us. And thankfully, a lot of my friends were available and were able to come and work on the movie. So I knew that we'd all be in safe hands, both cast and crew.
Mm,
And and again, big shout out to Broadside Films, the production company who made this. They also they reached out to all their talented connections and brought in a load of awesome crew members who were completely instrumental in making this movie. These people went above and beyond on a minute by minute basis, just wonderful because you know we shot them under difficult conditions.
yep.
But because the actors we had, and I knew the script so well, I knew how the actors would. I had a feeling how the actors would play their roles. These are big guys, big energies, delivering big performances. I knew that I would just be able to completely scale it down
Mm.
and just keep it very simple. And and of course with Tony's direction and his help and the brilliance around me, you know, we sort of we got away with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you say that obviously you didn't have many lines, which is of course true, but there's a certain wonderful minimalism to being able to show something without saying something. And that's one of the many reasons I thought you were absolutely brilliant in this role. You had this really believable balance of, like, as you said, you were portraying the PTSD and the violence would come out. But there was also this sense you created of being very isolated from the outside world, being a bit of a social recluse, and then changing to this steely resolve and determination, like in the weightlifting scenes and when you're biting the meat off. Like, despite not having a lot of lines, a lot of must have gone into the preparation for this character. So, on top of what you've just mentioned, how did you prepare to convey such, like, a wide range of emotions without saying much?
I think I've always been a fan of the less is more
Yeah.
notion, really, and I think the less you do as an actor or as a filmmaker, the more the audience get to do. And the important thing for me, from my point of view, is that I think it's really important
Mm,
to allow the audience ownership, for them to decide what you're thinking, for them to decide what you're going to do next, and for them to then enjoy being right. Um,
mm.
and the more of that happens, the more they'll get into the film. It was also important because I was the sort of through line through the whole thing. I had to get them on side from the second you see me.
Yeah.
I had to try and again, less is more. If you don't do anything or say anything, or if you don't pull any sort of face, you're literally a blank canvas. And when you're looking at a blank canvas, you can project whatever you want as an audience member onto that canvas. And so I thought, I just hope that as long as I just could just be, that the audience would just do the rest. I know that sounds ridiculous, because the horror was there for them to see. And the sad, and again, because of the work Tony had done with the script, the the audience didn't really have to do too much or work too hard. So whilst I didn't say a lot, I knew that if I just by keeping a completely straight face, and the audience would do the rest. And it's not that I was genuinely going, right, as soon as he says action, I'm going to pull a straight face. I'm just going to think about everything. All those documentaries I watched, all those articles I read, all those interviews I, again, no pun intended, consumed in my research for this. I'll just think about that. And to sort of at the same time, which sort of contradicts what I've just said, I'm also a sort of believer in, well, if he hasn't written it, it didn't happen.
Mm,
So you know how you know if it doesn't mention yesterday, there was no yesterday. Do you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's not there
absolutely.
in the script, so don't even think about it. Now, I obviously that I have contradicted myself, but I think so. I try to keep that as a sort of back thought in my mind. He doesn't mention it, don't think about it. Just think about this. Think about what's happening to you right here, right now. And because of Sean's backstory, in
Mm,
that Tony had created this world that he sort of talks about with Katrina, Sean talks about with Keziah Burrows' character. Sorry, I said her name then, like I've never said Keziah before. Because of Kez's character, Katrina, she brings some of the information out of him. It was written about, so I did have that to think about.
mm.
So yeah, again, I keep saying it, because of the work Tony had done and the brilliance of the actors around me, and the way it was lit and the way I was dressed and the food I was given to eat. Yeah, it all worked. Teamwork, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and we'll come on to the teamwork aspect in a bit, actually. Keeping it on you just for a little moment more. So we've talked about how you've prepared for roles like this. How, from the first time you've been in movies up until now, how has your preparation and creative process changed over time to culminate in this?
Whoa, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I think it all depends for me on the I guess just on the character, really. Um, I played Mark Antony once,
Mm,
and that guy really existed.
mm,
And whilst I was doing my research for Mark Antony, I found this really interesting stuff on him that talked about him being an alcoholic who suffered with depression. And yet, when you look at anyone portraying Mark Antony in film or on stage, they never touch on that. You just
Right.
see the fearless general, excuse me, this brave soldier who goes to war and captures the heart of Cleopatra. But I thought everyone knows that. But this is interesting. He's got a drink problem and he finds life tough. So that's what I focused on there, because it's more interesting for the audience. So I've always tried to do that. However big or small my part, it just has to be really interesting for the audience. If anyone's been kind enough to buy a ticket to a cinema showing or to a theatre piece, or has turned on the telly, if anyone's been kind enough to do that, I'd like to somehow give them something that they're going to enjoy, no matter how small. And of course, I've turned up in stuff over the years with one line or one scene or whatever, and it is trickier to do that, because at the same time you still have to be professional and serve those around you too.
Yep.
But it's about trying to deliver something interesting. So I've always tried to do that. I guess it's just easier to do that if you've got more on-screen time.
Entertainer at heart, give something back to the audience. I like
Yeah,
that.
you've got to.
I
Yeah.
like that. So let's talk about your food and your workout then. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's ironic that the movie's called Protein and that you were consuming protein, because I imagine, given the shape you got into, you must have consumed a butt ton of protein.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's start with the workout. What was it that you were what was your workout routine throughout the days or even the week? Was it every day working out? Was it multiple times a day?
Yes.
What was it? What
Yes.
was a genuine routine?
So Tristan Bevan, the former Welsh Rugby Union performance coach, he knows exactly how to do these things properly. So he, excuse me, created these incredible workouts for me, and it was all I wanted to get was, I just wanted to have the body of someone who didn't eat 4 meals a day, but only ate protein, or basically majorly vast amounts of protein where he could get his hands on it. But also, I didn't want to look big and imposing either. I just wanted to be skinny and wiry.
So carnivore diet basically is what they put you on.
Yeah. So he just did the workout for me. And I remember I was on a run, and I was just getting back from a run. I was thinking, I don't really seem to be changing shape. And my cousin Kerry, who's a supporting artist in the film, he phoned me up. He said, "What are you up to?" I said, I'm trying to lose some weight." He said, "Semi-fasting, try that." I said, "What's that?" Because everyone's talking about it now, but back in early 2020, I'd never really heard of it. He said, "Try it. Try this." Google, he said, the 16-8. So I Googled this thing called the 16-8, because everyone seems to be on now. And so I ate I had an 8-hour eating window and 16 hours of no eating. So I'd finish my last meal of the day about 4:30, and I wouldn't eat again until 8:30. And yeah, in between those two, I'd often do a weights workout and a run. And I literally dropped, it was 2.5 stones in total in 3 months.
That's a very rapid weight loss, and you didn't lose any muscle mass. So it wasn't just your
because
BMI going down, it was your body fat going down. That's really
exactly
cool.
that, right? So, but because I was on a high protein diet, the muscle was just getting fed anyway. And then the closer we got to shooting, I then scaled down my meals. So by the end of it, I wasn't eating any bread or any white potatoes. It was just proper. I mean, not that those things are bad, but I was just trying to completely. They're not at all. They're wonderful.
Zero
but I was
carb,
completely, I'm just going to pare it right down. I kept it to small amounts of rice as my carb and sweet potato as my carb.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't care now. I'd do it completely differently again, because science has changed even in this short time. But it was lots of meat, lots of protein shakes, loads of water. And I went in the last couple of weeks, I went from doing 3 or 4 boiled eggs, for example, for breakfast, to 1 boiled egg for breakfast.
You did the
That was for the last couple of
anti-Gaston. When I was a lad, I ate 4 dozen eggs. It went down to 1.
yeah, yes, yeah. So and I pared it all back, and I'm someone normally with a roast dinner would have 14 roast potatoes on it, you know. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
literally
yeah,
scaled
100%.
it right back, and yeah, and that was that. And then once we started filming, I kept that diet going, but I had weights on set, and
So you were literally doing kind of just getting pumped between takes so you could
constantly,
go on looking like all vascular
yeah,
stuff.
and so then once we were filming, obviously with the help of Giselle and Jason in the wardrobe, the costume department,
Yeah.
I would then, after I'd eaten some people, I would,
Sentence
I'd
you never
then,
think you're gonna hear in an interview.
isn't it bizarre? I'd then layer up a bit with the costume. So I
Right.
looked, even if you notice it or not, but if you look carefully, I do look bigger. And then
Yeah.
the more I start to eat, if I've got my top off in a scene down the line,
Mm.
before we film, I would do a massive body pump workout before that scene. So it was scheduled in a way that I'd be off the scene before I had to get my top off. So then I would just
Look
smash a
jacked. Yeah, yeah. And you did. I mean, you can tell that some effort went into this. Okay, cool. Let's talk about the aesthetic of this movie. It was when you were consuming the protein slash not protein. There's certain movies you watch them and you feel like you need to take a cold shower afterwards. Just you feel dirty. I don't know if you saw A24's A Prayer Before Dawn with Joe Cole.
No, I haven't.
Dude,
No.
now the Thai prison
All
movie,
right.
that's a film. But likewise, for very different reasons to protein, it's one where you feel like, ugh, Jesus, I need a shower. There was a really nasty, grimy aesthetic to this movie. Now, part of that obviously was set design, how they made the lighting look, some of the direction from Tony. But obviously, we were talking about collaboration earlier, right? Now, as the lead actor and with Tony as your director, there must have been a huge amount of collaboration between you. So when you were doing scenes like, you know, consuming the protein shakes or kind of gnawing off the meat, semi-cooked or not, what sort of was there anything you were giving back to the director going, actually, let me try it like this or that to make it even nastier? What was your input there?
So for me, it was the no. Tony was more vocal in his input there. How he
Mm,
wanted the consuming of the goods to look, and the way I was playing it. In the film, they talk about him being a serial killer,
mhm.
but I didn't play it necessarily a serial killer before he turned up.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that at the time, even though they talk about it. You know, she's come down from London looking for this guy, and I wanted it to be very much like I was eating it for the first time, so the audience were coming with me for the first time. I
Mm.
didn't want to be there's a dead body, whack that down like a Mars bar. I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted it to because I first take my time and I do retch a little bit, and a lot of that was Tony as well. We were sort of fairly settled on that. Because I think as well, you've got to keep the audience guessing too, haven't you? And you've got to keep them
Yeah.
making up their own minds. And we did want it to be. And I remember there was one scene where we were filming it where I'm drinking the shake and I sort of retch like that
Mm.
a bit, but keep on going. And out the corner of my eye, I could see two crew members had their backs to me over a bucket. And I thought,
Oh,
oh God, yeah. They didn't. They weren't sick. But it was, I thought, oh, crikey. Well, if this
job
works,
done then if you've triggered
yeah,
them.
I think if this works here, then hopefully it will work on screen. And if you see it in a cinema with an audience, yeah, the noise, the noises the audience make.
Yeah, I believe
Oh,
it.
it's just,
Oh, no.
yeah, it's glorious. It's glorious. The odd
I
little
knew you
shriek.
had a good time making this.
Yeah, yeah. It was good fun and surrounded by lovely people, talented people. During a time where we hadn't been allowed to see anyone for a long period, and there I
Mm.
am working with I got some of my best friends are in this film, so it was the most, considering the theme and considering the stuff you're seeing on screen, the brutality, the vile horror that goes on. It was really important that off screen it was just fun times, and it really was. It was lovely.
What was actually in the shakes, and what was the actual meat they were serving you?
The meat was beef.
Nice.
Yes, it was nice. So I ate it raw, and I ate it cooked. Obviously, I cooked it and ate it. In the protein shakes, it was watermelon, porridge oats, and almond milk, because I don't drink actual milk, and all of that sort of whipped up. Yeah, it was delicious.
So that's how it looked, kind of red and chunky.
Yeah.
It was watermelon. Very clever. I love that.
Genius. That was our amazing. Yeah, we had the best crew working on this, and those guys smashed that.
What was the most challenging part of this production, and how did you overcome it?
The meager budget,
Mm.
having to get it all done within 3 or 4 weeks. Some outside stuff, yes, but it was just a lot to get through with not much time and hardly any money to do so. And we, at one point, we'd got quite behind. So we'd have to shoot a normal day, wrap, as in, for those who aren't familiar with the term wrap, release a number of crew members, keep on a skeleton crew, and then shoot for an extra couple of hours of an evening just to make some time up.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was challenging, but also we'd have to, because again it was COVID times, we had to have a COVID tester on the on set, and it was just waiting in line for everyone to get tested, praying to God that everyone stayed negative, because of course it would have shut us down, and that would have finished us, really.
And everyone stayed negative, so that
everyone stayed negative. Yeah,
that's great. So actually, people respected the rules, which is
it was
really
wonderful.
refreshing to hear. Really cool to hear. God, you've got so many stories about this movie. What is it you're always going to remember about being part of this production?
A couple of things. Firstly, how we never gave up. We raised the money. First lockdown hit, we gave it all back. That lockdown eased, we raised the money again. The second lockdown hit, we gave it all back. That second lockdown eased. This time we were only able to raise just enough to make this movie, and we got it made. We got it made because we saw that by then people were so sick of the world not working that everyone on our film threw everything they had and the kitchen sink at this project. So you were working with people who were passionate, who were happy, who were grateful, who were proud, who were just loving being in work and loving having fun. I'll never forget that. And every day was an absolute dream. And then in post-production,
utopia while the world was falling
apart.
It
was great. Yeah. And I remember looking around, and then in post-production, I had a brain tumor removed, and so I didn't know, as someone pointed out, if I was even going to see the film get finished. So there's that. But then also, the guys in the gang, like some of these people I've known since I was a young teenager, right? And every time they were on set, it was just, they are so funny together. They're so funny in the film, aren't they? The gang, the way they bicker in the car, and just watching them doing stuff, bouncing off each other. It was just fun. Richard Ellis, Stephen Mayo, Kai Owen, Gareth Bale, Ross Hennessy. Those guys just making me laugh. And then I'm on a roll now. And then there was the guy who plays the lorry driver at the start, Andrew Lennon. We were in youth theatre together. I was in youth theatre with lots of people in this, but I haven't seen much of Andrew for since we left youth theatre, really. Just catching up with him. I had a mate of mine from school, Dean Lewis, who'd got me into horror films and genre movies because he used to bring videos around my house and we'd watch them, and he got him in it, and it was just great. It was just catching up with people when we couldn't catch up with people, and finishing after all of that, we left with a film that then premiered in Leicester Square to great reviews, and now goes all over the world. And as we speak, is now available on Prime, Apple, Microsoft through your Xbox, and soon to be more. So yeah, and in the cinemas. Cool. So keep an eye out.
Yeah. Nah, so cool. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here with just a few more personal questions. So you've shared your great love of Loach and Meadows at the beginning. Can you share some great movies that you love? Can be indie as you like, that you think the mainstream public or the mainstream consuming public likely won't have seen or heard of, that you think are like must watch?
So before I spoke with you, I met with a director about a film that we're going to do, and I mentioned this film to him, and he went, "Oh my God, I haven't seen that for years. I must rewatch it." And that film is Last Resort, Pavel Pawlowski. If you haven't seen it, look for it. We talked about Paddy Considine earlier, Dead Man's Shoes. Paddy is the lead in this. They then went on to make a more well-known movie, My Summer of Love, with Emily Blunt. That's what launched Emily Blunt. But before that, they made Last Resort. It is brilliant. It is brilliant. Check that out. That movie there. If you're not familiar with the work of Shane Meadows, and if you haven't seen Dead Man's Shoes, check that out.
Yeah.
But people often forget about A Room for Romeo Brass. And if he hadn't made A Room for Romeo Brass, he never would have got Dead Man's Shoes. But A Room for Romeo Brass is just genius. Then there's Andrea Arnold's Fish Tank. Check that out. That is fabulous. And then all of Ken Loach's films are amazing. But for me, Carla's Song, Robert Carlyle, made in the mid to late 90s. Check that out. Those are my go-tos. For anyone who's unfamiliar with the works of those people, those films. And one last thing, I've got to give a shout out to Bait, Mark Jenkins' movie Bait. Won the BAFTA for Best British Film, I think probably about 4 years ago. Forgive me if I'm off with my timings there. He's a Cornish filmmaker. He's a wonderful man, makes the most amazing films, interesting and fascinating, completely unique. So check out Bait as well.
Great recommendations there. Yeah, man, I love that. So last question, what can we expect from Craig Russell next?
The next thing I'm doing is I'm producing my third feature. It's called The Crossing. It's written and to be directed by Peter Stray. He's the guy that made the first feature I produced, Canaries. And the Crossing is basically it's a sci-fi film, but it's about a cult. So you think you're watching a cult movie, but then it just. And we're shooting that in September in South Wales.
Very cool. Okay. Guys, as I've said to you before, we are not just about Superman and Jurassic Park and Avatar, although we love all of that stuff.
Great movies, yeah.
Love all of that stuff. This channel is about the love of cinema, and it gives me great joy always to talk about and talk with, indeed, directors, actors from movies that are fantastic and that deserve your attention, but for a number of reasons, be that marketing, the prioritizing of the mainstream movies like the aforementioned, sometimes movies like Protein go under your radar. I will stand and die on this hill and say it is one of the movies of the year. Watch it. It's available now on Apple. It's available now on Amazon. Support great movies like Protein and like all the ones we've discussed today. If you're new to the channel and you love cinema, hit the subscribe button. And Craig, just before we leave, where can people find you if they want to follow you online?
So do you know what? I very recently, a week or two ago, got hacked and I lost my Instagram account. So I lost thousands of followers, but I've just set up another one. I'm now Craig Russell 1977 on Instagram, and you can find me there. And follow Protein Film on Instagram as well for all the updates, or follow me for the same. And on X, I'm on X as well, Craig Russell or Russ and Chips. Because who doesn't love chips?
Who doesn't love chips? Love that. Well, Sean doesn't love chips.
True. Finger chips, maybe.
There you go. Guys, it's been a pleasure as always having you here on the channel. And I hope that it will be the first of many that I get a chance to speak with you, Craig. So from me,
Thank you
long
so
love
much.
cinema. Bye for now.
Ciao.